Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome to the channel. Working on some art pepper. I've just been consumed with art pepper, and the sound that he gets out of his altos, played lots of different kinds, has just kind of mesmerized me. So we're working on that song, Bewitched, and we'll play it Wednesday night, tomorrow night, at the jam session. If you're in town here in La Mesa on the West Coast, you are more than invited to stop by. Cost you nothing. I'll give you the address if you send me your contact information in the comments below. But today, what I want to talk about, I got a list of myths that are holding you back in your quest to become a better sax player. I got a list of them. I have 8 of them here, and we're going to debunk all of these myths right now. All right, you ready? Here we go. Number 1, you have to be born with talent in order to be any good. Have you heard that? In fact, have you said that? Well, that's really kind of a slap in the face to anybody who's actually made it, because the stories are, they're all available to you. Everybody that's made it has put in their 10,000 hours. As Chris Thiele said on Rick Beato the other night, because you got a Malcolm Gladwell it. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about the 10,000 hours that it takes to master anything. And that was after Beato asked him, how is it that you're able to pick up your mandolin and just rip like that? He says, yeah, you got a Malcolm Gladwell it. That's really what it is. You're not born with it. I mean, you might have a faster processor. Certainly, I hope you have a faster one than mine. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? You're not born with it. Nobody was. Everybody worked at it to get wherever they are today. And most often, you see the end result, all right? You come in after someone's been at it for 10 or 20 years, and you just go, oh my God, I gotta move this camera a little bit closer. You say, I'll never be that good. Well, don't go there, all right? They put in the time. That's how they got good. They weren't born with it. All right, number 2. Sax teachers are a waste of time and money. Well, some sax teachers, right? But not all of them. All right, think about, you're headed out into some territory that you don't really know a lot about, right? You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing, what tricks could you be engaged to help you to get a little bit further on down the road that you want to be on. And you may not be getting there with your sax teacher, but I want you to, let's go back to number 1 for a second. Almost everybody that got hot on the alto or the tenor or the bari or the soprano sax, they had a teacher. They had a teacher. And you can look all of this up. It's all verifiable information. It goes with the territory that you need to have a mentor, all right? Now, you don't have to have one every week necessarily. You might be able to have, you find somebody that, you can Zoom lesson with once a month. I'm a teacher, so obviously that disclaimer is that I of course have a vested interest in this. But the other thing that you want to do is find the teacher that plays the way that you like, all right? Somebody that has a great sound, and you want that sound. So you want to go find that teacher. Is it possible that it's going to cost you a little bit more? Yeah, sure it is. Might cost you more than your basic $30 for 30 minutes guy or gal to find a pro level player. But you can. I mean, almost every major league player is doing lessons, and you can get to them and you can pay the price, and you might only need 1 or 2 or 3. I don't know. I don't know how, what your learning speed is, but you've got to find a really good teacher, and that teacher has to be one that speaks to you, has to be somebody that you admire, that you listen to and you say, yeah, they know things, all right? Number 3. Here's number 3. Let's dispel this myth right away. Number 3 is, I can't afford a Mark 6. Oh man, how many times have we all worshipped at that chipped altar? Got to have some. Got to have a Mark. Oh, it's got to be a Mark 6. not just any Mark 6. It has to be these serial numbers, and not just these serial numbers, but it has to weigh just about and it has to have those kind of pads on it, and it has to have somebody from New York that set it up, and it goes on and on and on. No, you don't. You need to have the saxophone that you have. Play the horn you have, okay? Honestly, there are amazing horns that are available to you, all right? You don't have to have a Mark 6 to play like your idol, okay? All right, number 4. Now this one is a killer. Number 4, and I hear this all the time as an instructor, part-time, music teacher. I don't have enough time. Yeah, well, there you go. If you say that, chances are good that you don't, because you're putting that out there, all right? I don't have enough time. Well, I bet you do have enough time for the stuff that you really dig. So maybe you need to think about that. Do you really dig playing the saxophone? Is this really for you? Because you'll find the time. And again, it's relative. I don't have enough time to, let's fill in the blank. Do what? Make it to Carnegie Hall? No, probably not. But you do have enough time if you start to rethink how you think about your time, right? Finding time. And I know that many of you out there are looking at me right now going, you got no idea what burdens we carry. Yeah, I mean, you have families, you got kids, you got wives, you got cars that need oil changes, dogs to walk, grocery stores, all that business, right? And I understand that. It really eats up a day, including... I didn't forget the job part. Yeah, that'll really that just sucks out all the time that you have. But you can find 10 minutes, right? And one of the things that we do, and I don't know how this got started or where it came from, but there's that old 30-minute thing. Private lessons have to be 30 minutes, and practice sessions must be 30 minutes. Try as hard as I might, I've never been able to find out who created that, who set those rules, those boundaries. But they were in place when I started playing as a child, and that was just a short time ago. I was 10 years old, and that was you got to practice for 30. You got to practice for 30 minutes. You got to practice, and private lessons were 30 minutes. It wasn't like you could go in for like an hour a month. No, it has to be a 30-minute. And so I'm not really sure where all that came from. And if that's if you're thinking that way. Yeah, I agree. You don't have enough time. But if you have a saxophone stand, they're really cheap. You can get them. You can leave your saxophone out like I do. If you have a situation where you can do that. Now, if you've got a wild, here's my saxophone stand right here. You got a wild 2-year-old in the house running around. Yeah, that might not be an option for you unless you can close up the room. But if you can leave the horn out, if you're able to do that, and keep a reed mouthpiece situation going so that it's easy for you to say yes, and you can pick the horn up and you can just play a song for 5 minutes, right? Bingo. There you go. You do 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. Well, there's your 20 minutes, right? You're on your way to the 10,000 hours. All right, come on, cheer up. You do have enough time. You just have to find a way to make your day work so that you can squeeze in smaller amounts, all right? Think about it. If you had those of you who work at home, if you had 6 10-minute bits, there's an hour by the end of a day. Doesn't all have to happen at once, okay? All right, so erase all the thoughts, the old school thoughts that were old, even when the Rubank books were old. They're old. Put them out of your head. You have to make it work for you. You can find time, okay? All right. Let's see what we have here. Those of you who are still here who haven't punched out yet, thank you for your patience. Number 5. Here's myth number 5. That is a real head buster. The best time in life to learn to play bebop or to really, kick butt, learning kick butt jazz is when you're a kid, when you're 9 or 10 or 11 years old. That's the best time in life to learn this stuff and to really get it down. Well, let's look at that. How many of the people that we admire, that we copy, that we study, had great childhoods, had homes where the parents made enough money and there was food on the table every night. They knew where their dad was. They had parents who bought them, private lessons and all that sort of thing. How many of the greats had those kind. No, they didn't. In fact, this music comes out of hardship. This music comes out of parts that, like, think about Louis Armstrong in New Orleans, in the ghetto part that he lived in New Orleans. Think about the beautiful music that he came out of that time with. Jazz, this music comes out of some hard scrapping times and places. And I don't know that that time was any more available to those kids than it is to you. Now, granted, if we're thinking in our frame, when you were 10 years old and I was 10 years old, we had a lot less to do. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have 2 dogs. I didn't have any of that business. So sure, there were vastly fewer demands on my time, and I could say go around the corner and play in a rock band with my buddies after school, and that's was a great foundation for me. I can still do that today, and so can you. All right, we just have to balance our time. But no, that's a myth that's holding people back, and I've heard that before. I've heard people say, "I'm too old. I'm too old. The best time to learn all this stuff was when I was 10." Granted, let's tailor the lessons so that we can work with what we got to work with today. Okay. Some of the extensive, classical arpeggios and things. Yeah, you might not have enough time left on the clock to make any of that work. How does any of us know? How do we know? We don't. But you might not have enough time if you're deep into your 70s to make that of any value for you. But you do have time to find something that's going to work to help you get to where you want to be as a player that's a little bit more realistic, right? Maybe just to sound good. How about that? All right. Number 6. I hear this one all the time too. Here's myth number 6, and let's bust it right now. There are too many scales to memorize. Oh, hell yes. There are, if you started now, you could probably, if you put one scale, it start at your front porch, end to end. Just write them out on a piece of paper, end to end. I'll bet you go around the world 6 times with all the scales that there are that the jazz community wants you to learn. How about if we just throw all that out and say, yeah, there are a lot of scales. Let's start with the majors, okay? How about that? How many major scales are there? 12. There are 12 major scales. How about you learn those? Why don't you get those down? Up, backwards, down, sideways, play them standing on your head. Get them all down. And I don't mean just the, I mean like the, C sharp and F sharp and B and E and all those scales that have all kinds of tricky A flat major, all that stuff. Get the majors down, dial them in, because the majors are the mothership, right? The majors, they are the planet mothership. Everything comes out of them. Once you learn your major scales, everything becomes so much easier, right? Then it becomes easy to, learn the 1, 3, 5, and 7, 1, 3, 5, whatever, 1, 3, 5. You can arpeggiate the major scales. Then it becomes really easy to create the minor scales, flat 3, flat 7, the Mixolydian dominant 7s, major scale with a flat 7, the half diminished scale, a major scale with a lowered 3, 5, and a 7, lower the 3 and the 5, and you've got a half diminished scale. Was that hard? No, that wasn't hard. Augmented, just raise the 5. Yeah, sharp the 5, okay? Is that hard? No. But you got to know the major scales first. So if you have that foundation, and I mean, you can do them like, what's 1 + 1? 2, right? That fast. You get them that fast, you get them all dialed in, then you can move on to the other ones that you see and that show up frequently. All right? Yes, there are a lot of them, and there are no end to the teachers like me on YouTube. We're telling you every day, you must learn this scale. You must, this scale will change you. This scale will, you have to, this is blah, 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 blah. No, learn the major scales. Don't cheat yourself on that one. If you're trying to get into improvisation in any of the genres, I don't care what it is, country, bluegrass, whatever, klezmer, anything. Learn your major scales, all right? Just do that for yourself. Only 12 of them. Give yourself a reasonable goal. What's a reasonable goal for you? I don't know. One a week, one a month, one a year. I don't care. As long as you get them, all right? Here's number 7 now. Let's bust this myth. If I start playing out, people are going to hear me blow clams, and they're going to talk about me behind my back. They're going to say bad things about me. It's going to be embarrassing, right? So I better not play out. Well, let's bust that myth. First of all, at any given gig, the audience is far too busy doing what audiences do to notice clam bakes, all right? And second, even the best of the best players are going to blow clams. They are. It's part of the gig. It's just part of what we do. We make music, we blow a clam here or there, and nobody knows, and they don't talk about it. They honestly, don't let that keep you at home. You have got to get over that, and you got to get out, and you've got to start, and I've got students that are terrified of practicing at home, and they come back and they're as poor as they were the week before. Why? Because they didn't practice. Why? Because they think the neighbors will think I'm stupid, or they'll hear me play notes and they'll think, oh, he's made mistakes and think, no. Listen, you got to go through this phase. You got to just suck it up, and what the man say? Just do it, okay? All right. And here's the last one, and then I'll get out of your hair. The last one, the best of all sax players, they all played on super strong reeds. What's that myth I heard that Grover Washington played a 5? Does anybody actually know if that's true or not? I don't know Grover, never met him. I listened to him coming up. He's a phenomenal sax player. I mean, he launched so many careers, right? Just a phenomenal player. But I have no idea if he played a 5. I read that in the literature. People that say they know that he played a 5 will write that. But a 5 reed is like a popsicle stick. If it worked for him, good. If he bought a 5 reed, do we know, did he shave it down at all? I don't know. Maybe he shaved a 5 reed down to maybe something a little more playable. For a time when I was playing in very loud rock bands, I used, an Autolink Super Tone Master, and it was a 10-star. That's right, you heard right, a 10-star, pretty wide open tip. And I was using a 4 reed, number 4. You heard that right too, plastic cover. And I played that setup for years until it stopped working for me. And that's the key to underline here. You play what works for you, all right? Not all the best players in the world lasted on, heavy reeds. Now, the stronger the reed, the better the top of the horn sounds. The bottom of the horn is going to be a little bit tougher to play. But listen, you play what works for you. You sit down with your mentor or your band or whatever, or your tape recorder, and you try a reed sound. You play the reed that works for you and stick with that. Stick with that setup, right, until you're ready. It's not a contest. It's not like weightlifting, like, well, I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. Then next week I'm going to add a little more weight. No, it's not like that. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is find a setup that works for you, that allows you to progress on your terms and express yourself and make the kind of music that you'd like to make. For the God's sakes, you don't need to go out and buy a 10-star and strap some 4 Rico plastic covers on there. That was like I said, it worked until it stopped working, and then I changed up. There are many players, superb players, who use light reeds, like 2.5 on a 5 or a 6 tip or something like that. My dog is licking my foot. It's very distracting. I love you too. Anyway, that's my point, all right? So I'd love to hear your comments and, some of the myths that you've busted out there to help you get where you are, okay? All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting through all of this. I'll catch you next time. Take care. Play your saxophone, be good to each other, and have fun.